What's up guys, it's Kyle here back again for another video, and today we're going to be doing a character wish list. This is going to be my villain edition, and I know a lot of people are going to want to see a hero edition, so I will do that afterwards. But you know, we need more villains in this game, so I'm just going to drop some names. I'm going to talk about what role I think they'll fit in, and just like what they can add to the game, and that's it. You know, that's what we're going to do. So first off, we're going to say Sabretooth. He's easily can be a tank. He could be what Wolverine wasn't, because a lot of people didn't like the idea of Wolverine being a tank because he's short, like, which, you know, whatever. Sabretooth is tall, and he has, you know, the super strength, he has the healing factor, he has the claws, he could be a brawl character, have that durability, and he can sort of survive longer in fights, sort of like how Venom does, where he has the advanced, like, the overshield. So that would be a cool thing you can add to Sabretooth, and that's just something that he can add to the game, you know. You can also have, like, that sort of team up between him and Wolverine, possibly. Or just like that, I don't even know what to call it, but that sort of fight between them, because, you know, Sabretooth is a tank and Wolverine would be a DPS, so it just kind of fits, you feel me? But the next character I would add is Hydro Man. Hydro Man is a lesser known character. He's a Spider-Man villain. He's pretty much Sandman, but just with water. I would obviously make him a tank because he can't be damaged in a conventional way, and he's sort of like this AoE character, so that's like an easy like tank role character, and I would personally add him because, you know, you want to add new characters that people don't know about, so that's what I would add, you know. But next character after that is Carnage. A lot of people love Carnage, you know. He would play like Venom, but he would obviously have more diversity in his weapons because he could make different stuff. So you can have him as a DPS who can switch between different weapons, sort of like how Punisher does with his assault rifle and shotgun, except this would obviously be melee. So you can be like, oh, he has a scythe and as one weapon, or he has like a spikes as his other weapon. And that would be a crazy concept to like have like a character that can switch between melee styles. I do have another character like that on this list, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Another character is Kang the Conqueror. Kang the Conqueror is a character who has technology. He has the ability to travel through time, manipulate time, and, you know, he can be an easy strategist. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that because they think that every Avengers level threat has to be a DPS or a tank for some reason, but this is an easy strategist, especially when you have technology. The thing about the strategist role, you don't have to be a heal bot. You can have characters that just give buffs or just like, you know, add to the team in different ways. You know, damage boost, buffs to the health, you know. There's different ways to do stuff. So Kang the Conqueror, he could be perfect for that, especially since he has tech. So he can still have like some sort of healing weapon or primary heal, if you want to call that. But yeah. And the next character I would say is Graviton. Graviton is an Avengers villain. If you've seen him in, I believe it was Earth's Mightiest Heroes, you've probably seen him in that. But he's a lesser known character. He controls gravity. He would obviously be a tank just due to how his powers work and how much control he has. I wouldn't add him as a DPS. But my concern with Graviton is that he would kind of be too similar to Magneto. But, you know, there's ways to do things. He could be a shield tank. That's an easy shield tank. And another character I would add is Strife. Strife is Cable, but pretty much evil. And Strife he's pretty much an Omega level mutant because he doesn't have that restriction that Cable has with the techno-organic virus. So that's another shield tank that, you know, he has the telekinesis, the telepathy, the, you know, whatever Omega level mutants can do, you know. And then you have characters like Mr. Sinister, who is extremely intelligent. So you can also add that as a strategist. Or you can add Omega Red, another villain that you'll be seeing in the new Wolverine game pretty soon, but he can be a tank, you know. You can add characters like Abomination. Abomination is like sort of like a direct sort of, you know, counter to Hulk, or not a counter, but, you know, a character like Hulk, and you can pretty much give him different moves. You can give him a different design. They do fight differently, so that's an easy character to add into the game. You can add the Mandarin. I actually don't. I haven't kept up with his character currently, aside from obviously like the new Shang-Chi movie that just came out, and then like Iron Man Armored Adventures. If anybody has watched that, but the Mandarin, he does have the rings. They have changed how the rings work, so we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if they want to add him or Shang-Chi, but honestly, both would work. But since this is a villain list, I'm just going to say the Mandarin. Next character I would add is Juggernaut. Juggernaut is another character who can fit like that sort of strength class. I'm sure he's going to be one of those guys who end up in the game anyway. But he's an immovable object. The moment he starts running, there's nothing stopping him. You could do a lot with that. That's an easy tank. Then you have characters like Lady Deathstrike, who can be Wolverine, but sort of like have less health. So make it to where she does a whole bunch of damage at the start. And maybe like the more she attacks, the less damage she does instead. So, create like an in and out situation where like your initial hits do the most damage, but if you attack for too long, you do less damage. That would be crazy. It would encourage a different playstyle. And then you have characters like Red Skull, who can easily be a strategist. I don't even know how to expand on that one. Red Skull is just one of those characters, and he sort of has this leadership position. So I don't know if they would ever add him though, just because of, who he is. But that's a potential strategist. But if they don't add him, they can also add Green Goblin as a strategist. Green Goblin flies around with his bombs. Then he flies around with his glider. That's an easy pick. They could make him a DPS, but honestly, since we need more strategists, I'm just going to say a strategist. But yeah, just to go back, strategist doesn't have to just be mainly healing. Like, they can apply buffs. They can throw things on the field that just give heals. Like, we got to make the strategist role interesting, so people got to be willing to play it, and the only way to do that is to add interesting characters. So another character could be Absorbing Man. Absorbing Man would obviously be a tank, but imagine a dude who can like take his environment and just like use it to add like onto his own durability. Like, that would be crazy. Like, he gets overshield based off like some random part of the map that he touches, and then like his body changes around that. Or you can give him like a tank mode and a DPS mode. Like, that would be crazy. He has like a wrecking ball. So, that's just another character that you could sort of add. He could be like Thor, where he's more of like a DPS tank, but also has like that tankier state to where he can sort of mitigate damage. And then you have characters like Bullseye, who can be another ranged DPS. He can throw cards and, throw knives or any sort of objects because, that's what he does. But he can also sort of change that boring aspect of like range DPS where you're just sort of throwing like the same thing over and over again. And you can just avoid that, So you can do a lot with Bullseye, honestly. Like with the cards, the combos, or even make it so he can ricochet stuff off walls. Like, he could be like Moon Knight, but instead of like needing an Ankh, he could just throw it at the wall, bounce it, and it hits somebody. That would be crazy. Then you have characters like Atuma. Atuma is another water-based character. Namor's already in the game, but you can make Atuma a tank. You can add characters like Whiplash. Whiplash can be a DPS. And Annihilus. Annihilus is a bit of a bigger character, or a bigger character in terms of like scale, but not actually big, but just scale. But he could be a DPS. You can add Mr. Negative, also a DPS. Or you can add Mysterio, who could be a strategist, just because of like its illusions, its an ability to like change the field in different ways. Like, that's an easy strategist. So yeah, that's my list on the villains. There's not much I would add in addition to this, mostly because I know people are going to be like, oh, what about like characters like Thanos, or like crazy characters? I can't even think of Thanos and like Doctor Doom. I think Doctor Doom's going to come to the game either way. The only reason I don't want to say characters like Thanos is because I don't know how willing Marvel Rivals is to add characters like that. Like, I know people are going to be like, what about Null and Thanos and anybody who can blow up a planet, or like Galactus? Like, you got to think about these characters and like how they would fit into the game, and then how they would make characters how would they make them work in that sort of aspect. So yeah, it just gets weird, but I'm sure they can pull it off. Like, I'm sure Thanos could be like a tank. He does have powers in the comics. He's not like his MCU counterpart, but it is a potential add. Doctor Doom, we kind of already have his design, so it's really just a matter of time for him. For characters like Null, like, I feel like that's a bit crazy. Like, I would say add Gore the God Butcher before I say add Null. But yeah, you know how this stuff goes. But if you guys like the video, if you like the conversation, just tap that like button. If you want to get in and add your own list, you can just put that in the comment section, and subscribe if you want to see more, because I will be making a hero edition of this. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.